It's actually not awful. Bear with me, guys. I'm getting there. All right. I have no idea why you're this dark. I don't have a clue why this thing's that dark. That help. That helped. Good. Hey guys, oh that's not right. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. All right, good. I don't know. This is the camera we have now. This is what we're gonna have to deal with. Give me a sec here. And let's go there and get to it. Couple things that I think are super, super interesting today. You should be able to hear me, I think. You should be fine. Let me just check the mic and make sure that you are. I had to unplug a bunch of this stuff and replug it back in, and I think it's working. Yep, we're good. Let's get to it here. We should be fine. The BMNR you opened up, they're doing some kind of weird secondary where they're just saying, oh, the at the money price to do the secondary is 70. I don't know who's buying this stuff. Like, I really don't. It's mind boggling to me why somebody would pay up on a secondary like $12 higher. I thought it was because of the NAV. I did try trading it this morning. I just closed it out because it just seems kind of silly, to me. But I thought it might lift on that, and it's not doing that. Other things that I'm noticing out there, and I'm just going to go into the ES super quick here. Actually, I already have it set up. To me, this is how I see it. So this is when Itchy came out and said we're cutting rates. This is when Itchy stopped speaking. That's when Itchy started speaking. So you have a bunch of little areas in here, but specifically right there, I think that is really your focal point. So if you can hold up there, great. Now, are you starting to see some of this kind of turning over? To an extent, yeah, you are a little toppy in here, but I would just watch that area pretty closely and kind of go from there. I don't know what you're going to get this morning. You've had a lot of unwind, but if I had to tell you like where your key demarcation lines are, that's really where it is. That's really, in my opinion, where it is. And that's how I would view it. So I wouldn't go nuts until you see how this plays out. I think that you have a lot of people that are just expecting this to all roll over. Everyone becomes like a rollover expert, like immediately. And there he is again. So you just remember that's your little area there with him. I think it's super important to remember that. If I am to look at how this is playing out this morning, you're coming right down to key levels Friday. If you take a look at where you were, Sunday night, you're nowhere near that. Like that's a dream. And I think that's super important, right? Like if you come up here and you look at that level, you're not really getting anywhere near that, right? So You tried to rally through that new high. It didn't happen. You got rejected, and here you are. And I don't think there's much more to say about it. Now, you are holding the line here. So as long as you're holding that line, you're getting that demand. And I don't think that that's the worst idea in the world to see if that holds. But, overall, my overarching theme here is that is definitely something that I'd be paying attention to, and I'd be watching super closely. Until you get through that, I don't think you have much that you need to concern yourself with. So, let's see how this goes, and we'll go from there. In regards to how that plays out with the SPY or the Q, from my perspective, that 665 seems to be the real level. And I'm going to just go check something while I have you guys. I don't really see much here that I have to, overly concern myself with, at all. But, I just don't see it. And it's definitely that 665 level is definitely going to be an issue. You got some stuff up here, but just kind of going through this and see if I see anything else that's really of consequence. And that's really how I see it. I mean, that's really how I see your levels. I don't know that there's a lot to do here. I'm going to say it again until you solidify some of this movement. I don't really see a lot of, like falling out of bed here at all. And you're so far away from like where they're buying puts and everything else. Let me just go see something here and see if any of this has changed this morning. So much information lately. It's just, I've got, you're so far away from anything like that. And this is your big area up here, but I don't really see much more. Let me just see one more thing. Yeah, I don't really see much more out there that I would be, concerning myself with. Maybe this is an area of interest. Maybe that's an area of interest, but I'm not really feeling that either. Maybe you get there. You're really going to have to watch this like a hawk, because they want to convince us that they're dropping, but I'm not so sure that that's what's going to happen here. So, I'm not really sure what the reason is that we would drop. I just don't see it that way. I think if you get into this and you fall through here, that 595, it could get ugly. And, you look at some of this stuff on like a 4-hour, and you definitely have that, that roll, but let's go to the pre and the post. If you don't have that in, this is where you are. So you go to the futures market, and you have that negative divergence. It's there. So, on your toes, but we still don't know how deep that would be. We just don't know, but it's definitely there. It's definitely, pay attention to it. Don't pretend that you don't see it. Look at it. What else is of interest? The funniest thing that I thought over the weekend was just the Tesla news and how Tesla moved because he sat next to Trump and they talked. I'm not really sure why that's so important, but everybody seemed pretty giddy about that. The stock's up $5 on that. I thought that was the funniest news. What else is interesting out there? IREN doubled their capacity this morning. That's why it's moving the way that it is. That's actually really big news, and it probably has legs. The uranium trade, I'm going to take a bunch of questions, but the uranium trade, pardon me, this is what I would say. These things end with extreme prejudice, like they bid up drastically, and then that high marks it. So you don't have something like that. So it usually ends like this. You have a move out, and then you get this extreme gap up with all this pressure, and then they squeeze the shorts, and then they just sweep the leg. That's not really what you're getting here. And I think that's super important for people to get. You're not getting that. I see this move. We're in this. It is insane, the move. It doesn't end with down 3, down 4. It ends when you're up like 20, and then that becomes the high and marks the bar. The problem with something like this is they could do a secondary at any minute. Any of those companies can, because there's no revenue out there, right? So that's definitely something to think about. I'd rather take questions this morning than do anything else. So let's get to it. Also, as always, just click the like button. SPY's up 6%. STRL cup and handle, take two. Yep. So the Etsy, out of all those, the Etsy super interesting. You get a bunch of people covering shorts when it looks like. I like these kinds of patterns. Hopefully you get another inside day. I think you can just, try to test that 70 and see if you can finally get through that level. But I am looking at this. I am looking at that. I think there's something definitely to that trade. Hands down, it does make sense. STRL, I'm just way overextended for me to get involved in something like that. So is that there? Does that trade make sense? Yeah, 100% that makes sense. And there could be something there. It's just not for me. Take two, in regards to take two and how this is playing out. From my perspective, I don't know when they're going to come out with this new game. He really seems to want to buy it when they say the game's not going to come out for years. That kind of seems like the move. Oh, the game's not coming out for years. You buy it, and then everyone thinks the game's coming out, and then you sell it to them. It really kind of seems that way. So people don't really seem to care whether or not they just tell you that it's coming and then it never does. So however you want to play that. The OKLO, to me, again, like I have a position in this, and I actually added to it today for a day trade, and it's not really doing anything. I think the most important thing about it is that this doesn't usually end with down like 3. It ends with like down 30. And you're not doing that. So I personally look at this and think that, until they do the secondary, because there's no revenue here, until they do a secondary, you're probably not really going anywhere. It's not going to end with like an inside bar and then, we're just going to fall down. It's going to end like, all these like things end like, it's going to be violent. It's going to choose violence. It's not chosen violence yet, like at all. It doesn't matter the name, but they all choose, violence. Let's clean that off. There you go. But they all choose violence. So, and it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a real company or it's not, but they all do that. And even like gold did it before it reset, where it had this pop up over here and everybody had to get in gold. And then it took, 6 months for that to become, the level. So, yeah, I definitely think there's something to that. But that's usually not how this ends. It usually ends in some kind of like really big gap up. Like if I came in this morning and it was up 20 or down 20, like it wouldn't have surprised me at all. What's really surprising me about it is that this is what it's doing. So that's how I view it. We'll go from there. ARGI, I don't know that one. RR, I like. I'm short hood. ARGI. I have no idea why this thing's up. Not a clue. I don't have any clue why this thing's up, why it went where it went, why it's down. Not a clue. I'll throw it in the room and maybe they have a reason for it and what it does. Agro force growing, there's your level. And I don't know why you did this, but there it goes. So, the easiest thing to do is to, mark this off and do a fib retrace off of it. There's your demarcation line. Well, there's your demarcation line right at that 23.6%. Maybe. But I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. What else you got, Julian? The RR I like a lot. I don't think people understand this yet at all. It's really crazy to me how people are not getting some of this research. The company comes out and says, we're going to be first with robotics. And then no one even pays attention to it. And then it starts moving and then everybody looks into it. So yeah, there's definitely something here and I certainly be paying attention to it. I think it's worth paying attention to. Fly, I don't know anything about. I know nothing about this company. Firefly, I have like literally nothing. Stuff like this, I tend to not go near until you start flipping the IPO VWAP, and you're very far off of that. So for someone like myself, I'd mark that off, and then I'd watch that IPO VWAP, and then I'd see how that, how it acts, and does it go up, does it go lower, and kind of go from there. That's where my head would be with something like that. Other than that, it's not one that I pay attention to. Hood, I'm short. Um, you know, Everybody and their mother had to buy it because it's going to be added. It's going to be added. Well, it got added Friday, and everybody bought millions of shares on Friday, and you can see it. So 200 million shares were bought on Friday. Yeah, there's nobody left. I mean, it's the same thing with APP. Like, there's just nobody left here. So, do you still get the short covers today that were like myself? You could. I mean, I'm in no hurry to close the short here because I think you're going to come back down. I'm not saying you're going to fall apart, but I think you can come down to like 112. I'm not looking for the end of the world here, but I am looking for weakness. And I do think I'm going to find it in this name today. That's where my head is with it anyway. What's up, Steve? LDI, these things are like, they are what they are. I wouldn't put a lot of faith into it. I mean, it ran, it doubled. Like, I don't know what people are waiting for, with some of this stuff. APVO, same thing. Like, I don't know. It came out with the drug. The drug was good. These things they're highly manipulated. So I wouldn't put that much faith in it. Good morning from Albania. Good morning from Miami. Hello from Albania. Yeah, I do think that there's a lot going on with the JP Morgans of the world. And, I look more today on the pullback than anything, but the pullback and getting into them makes more sense to me now. When I look at those kinds of names like the QBT and how these things are going, I don't know. I can't believe none of these companies are coming out and doing secondaries. Like, oh, hold on, QBTS. It's pretty interesting. QBTS. So it's pretty interesting to me that none of them are doing that. The IONQ to me, that 70 is a big level. I'm surprised it held the way that it did on Friday. I thought it would sell off. I was actually short it. The one that makes the most sense to me is just this RGTI. That one makes the most sense to me, and that's definitely one that I would be, looking at out of all of them. It doesn't mean that I'm right, but that's the one that has my attention out of all of them. But we'll see how it goes. You can get an inside day. Again, this is not usually how this stuff ends. This stuff usually ends and it's pretty ugly. It doesn't end with inside bars. It ends with like gapping at 36 and then pulling all the way back down. And that's not really what we're doing here. So, keep that in mind. But the quantum names look great. What's up, Troy? Good talking to you the other day. But I don't know, man. When I get this kind of stuff, I just tend to avoid until I'm over it. Whenever I get something like that, I'm just like, whatever. Because it's like that. This is what I'm talking about. You get that, you close here, you gap up, you fill everyone full of hopes and dreams, and then you smash them, right? Just like you smash them here. And until I'm through this area, like you have the band zone of resistance, I don't really have an interest until that gets rid of itself. That's kind of how I look at those, Troy. CRML. I don't know what they do, dude. Critical metals. I will say this about stuff like this or stuff like MP. You got a lot of buyers out there in that stuff, like a lot. And go from there. That's kind of how I say it. Let's see it. Let me just see what's going on here. So the QUBT did do a secondary. So that's why it's down. And they're probably all down because they're all going to do that. And there's this like reverse merger going on here with these stupid names with doing these secondaries and treasuries. This thing's going to end so badly. Wait till one of those gets a margin call and then go from there. So AVGO. I like it a lot. I mean, I look at it longer term. What I've seen here with these earnings moves is you seem to rally up, come back, retest these levels, and then they make a decision from there as to what they're going to do. That's how I see them. I don't know. Bank of America, it seems like the whole thing was on Moynihan, right? So I don't know. Is that the bank that I would buy? Like whenever I want to buy a bank, I just think that it's just like, why would you buy anything else? Just buy JP Morgan. Like, why even bother? If I want to buy an investment bank, I buy Goldman. If I'm looking to buy something like mid markets, I buy Jefferies. If you're looking at buying something that's like a private equity company, it's APO or it's KKR, right? So it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to buy like mergers and acquisitions, you buy Lazard. So it depends like where you're trying to go and why you're trying to buy Bank America. But like, I would look at individual names more than why Bank America. Like Bank America is a nightmare, man. Like the way that they're not integrated, it's just crazy. And they're still not integrated. There's not a lot of action going on there. I think that really it's going to boil down to like, does Micron lift these guys out of this? Micron's on fire and earnings are this week, and that's going to move SanDisk as well. So all this stuff's trading up on that. So what's up? What's going on, Jacob? BKR, CYBR. Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line with this is that the biggest issue that they have are payments, right? So until they figure out their payments, I think you have an issue. What I would say is this. Whenever I see this kind of stuff, Matt, it's always very interesting. Hope things are well. It's always super interesting to me when I see this kind of stuff. You rally up and then you get these pullbacks and then you rally up. So, and what I mean by that is like 45 on earnings, and then the earnings were a disaster, and then it still held. You kind of have to pay attention to that. And, do you break this sheer panic level? I don't know, man. These are tough. These are tough calls because you have a lot of reasons why this could not work. There's a lot of reasons for it to not work. You really need the government to step in here and say that, hey, you have to honor these rental agreements and lease agreements. And that's one of the key things with this name that's a real problem. So, nobody has to pay them. And then when they go to court, they'll win, but, they get stuck with the bill all the time. And that's a real problem out there. So, and we'll go from there and see how it plays out. What's up? BKR. Let's go take a look at BKR real quick. I mean, you're just grinding right along. It doesn't really do it for me. I get it. This is super interesting. And I think this kind of space is going to be on fire, quite frankly. Clearly, I missed this. And that's how I would view this, that I missed it. But, you've just been on absolute fire, just been on a freaking tear. So it is what it is. I don't really see the sense in doing anything else there, but you've just been on an absolute tear. APH. Yeah, this another name. It's just been on fire. I can't buy them all. Really hard to look at some of these and what they've done. But yeah, I mean, you've just been grinding and grinding and grinding since earnings. Like earnings were good. Just grinded. The little flim flam earnings were good. I mean, you're just grinding, man. So I don't know. I don't know that that's going to change. What's up, Tariq? Tomlin, of course he's buying it. We went through the SPY. I don't know why it's just. I mean, you can't blame these guys for doing secondaries. Like, of course they're going to do secondaries. Of course they are. So I don't know. Did the government take a stake in them? Is that what happened? I don't know. I didn't hear that. I don't really get this government stake and how we got involved in all this. Like why we're trying to go down this route of like government owning companies. Seems kind of crazy. So yeah, I like the Sky T a lot. BBWI, let's go take a look. BBWI. As a short, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'd make sure it breaks first. I mean, am I buying that? God, no. No. Any name like this that can't rally on what's going on out there right now, I mean, hopefully you're looking at a short. The Visor news is interesting. I forget what the name of that symbol is. I should know it. BX something or other, right? BX MSRT. Is that it? MRST? I traded it earlier. I forget what it is now. I don't know. Whatever. They're buying some company. What you want to do is try to buy that as close to the buyout price and then see if you can get the kicker. I'm going to go take a look at it, my book, and say it. I'm not touching any of this China stuff, man. You're just one day away. What's up, Jeffrey? TTD. No. I mean, good God, no. I mean, obviously there is definitely an issue there. What's up, Nestor? Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of charts you're really looking for, those retests. And this is what I was saying earlier. You're getting tons of this stuff where you're breaking out on earnings, and then from there, you're just flipping and going. So, Lays. Not really. It's not my kind of trade. I'm going to have to jump here, guys. BKKT. What's up, Michael? I got a bunch going on this morning. I don't know why you're up. You're up for some reason because someone's doing something. I don't know all these stories, guys. Like I would have no idea why this is doing what it's doing. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be doing what it's doing. I just don't know, why it's doing it. So it's definitely of interest to me, but I just don't really understand why, why it would be doing it. So. I must have the wrong symbol, I guess. I don't know, Acon. I don't know, man. I don't know why this thing's doing what it's doing. Maybe there's a reason, maybe not. AMAT's just been the one that just can't get along, right? You look at Lamb, and Lamb's just breaking out, rocking. You look at KLAC, it's breaking out, rocking. And AMAT's just, I don't know. You would think it'd catch up. I don't touch the Chinese names here. ASST bought somebody. I don't know what they're doing there. I mean, they're not being very clear about what they're trying to do. So until they figure it out. So Sophie's a beast, dude. Like Sophie's going to be a beast. I mean, it's very clear what they're doing. I think that they are probably the easiest company out there to deal with. I couldn't get over how easy it was to deal with them. Let's see. Marble, it is what it is. MSTS. It's up 60%. No, it's not. Coming from Hawaii. All right, I'm out of here, guys. I would just tell you, like, take your time. Watch how this settles down. I would also just let you know that, like, this isn't how any of this ends. Like with the uranium stuff, it usually ends with a big blow off, and you're not getting that. You're getting order. QUBT, for this one, you'd want to wait until after the secondary before getting involved. So that's how I say it. All right, guys, have a good day. Make good choices.